Well, let's talk about the European elections now, because 27 countries will vote from the 6th to the 9th of June in elections that will, of course, have a great impact across the European Union and beyond. We've got about 373 million voters eligible to vote from Finland to Belgium, right across the EU. However, what's at stake is the makeup of the European Parliament as ever. But national conservatism is on the rise. We've had Geert Wilders' Party for Freedom topping the polls in Holland. We've had Marine Le Pen once again gaining support in France in recent months. And also, of course, we've had the election of right-wing rulers, Giorgia Meloni in Italy and indeed Viktor Orban in Hungary. So to discuss this, let's talk to Anand Menon, Director of UK in a Changing Europe. Lovely to see you this evening. Thank you for joining me, Anand. I mean, it is slightly ironic, isn't it, that we seem to be going in a leftwards direction if the polls are to be believed, and yet there is this rise in, some might call it far right, some might call it right wing, some might call it populist politics across Europe.
I mean, yes, we do expect the right to do well in the European Parliament elections, but I've just add a note of caution. In the last Spanish elections, for instance, the Vox party hemorrhaged a lot of votes to the centre-right. In Poland, what we've seen is a more centrist party take over the government after a long period of government by the far right. So whilst you're right, I think the numbers of right-wing party MEPs in the European Parliament is set to increase. It's a little bit messier than that. It's not across the whole of Europe in a uniform manner.
But at the same time, what do we think is responsible for this kind of rise? Because obviously the I word, immigration, has come up a lot, not just in the UK when it comes to our elections here, but equally across the EU. I mean, immigration is playing a part, I think, in the surge in popularity of characters like Wilders.
Oh, absolutely. Immigration is one of the key factors. You can layer onto that because Geert Wilders has been very good at weaponizing the state of the Dutch economy. So, he majored on the fact that young people in the Netherlands can't get houses, and he tried to offer something on that. So it's a mixture of the economy and immigration. And I think more broadly, a sense of insecurity. We're living in very troubled times. There are a lot of conflicts out there in the world. You've got what's going on in Ukraine. And I just think people feel insecure. And at moments like that, these parties can seem more tempting than at more stable moments.
And just in terms of personnel at the helm of the EU, Anand, how might this leave Ursula von der Leyen? Is her position in jeopardy?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, remember last time her majority in the European Parliament was a whopping 9. And this time she faces real trouble. She's been cozying up to some of the more right-wing leaders like Giorgia Meloni in Italy. The problem is that in so doing, she's spawned threats from the left-wing parties that they will not vote with her if she supports parties on the right. So we'll have to wait and see what the precise result is. That it is far from inconceivable that she doesn't get the parliamentary approval she'll need to continue as Commission President.
And also, finally, Anand, there's been this suggestion that actually Meloni, as you've mentioned there, in Italy, could end up being the kingmaker, or perhaps it should be queenmaker in this case.
She could. Her votes will be absolutely crucial in selecting the new Commission President. The other thing that really matters with these right-wing parties is how effective they are at working together in the European Parliament. Because if they can, they will be one of the biggest blocs, perhaps even bigger than the socialist bloc. The problem is that whilst we lump these parties together as right-wing or far-right, they have very different policy offers on, for instance, Ukraine, on the size of the EU budget, and perhaps unsurprisingly, because they're nationalist parties, they find it very hard to cooperate transnationally. And I think that is always a bit of an Achilles heel for them when it comes to working well in the European Parliament.
Anand Menon, thank you very much indeed for joining me this evening. We'll keep an eye on those elections across the course of the next few days.